Senator Smith from Minnesota is recognized from her office.
And Ranking Member, and thanks so much, Chair Gensler, for joining our committee today. Chair Gensler, when you were here last fall, I asked you about the materiality of climate risk disclosures, and I think that you very effectively explained why this information is relevant to investors so that they have good information and can make informed decisions about their investments. And so it's been a year, and meanwhile, the rest of the world is moving forward. The EU and the UK and the International Sustainability Standards Board have all recently taken steps to implement robust climate disclosure standards. And of course, this will be reverberating across the globe economically. In fact, it's estimated that 3,000 US companies will be subject to these EU standards. So my question, Chair Gensler, is I understand that you can't comment on ongoing deliberations, but could you comment on how you see U.S. leadership on this issue, why you think this is important, and what level of urgency you feel to complete this rulemaking process?
I thank you. It's really about bringing comparability and consistency to that which is already happening, that many U.S. issuers are already disclosing climate risk information, and investors are making investment decisions. And so we just look at it really within that decades-old tradition that the SEC addresses itself to material disclosures and comparability.
And to this point of sort of urgency of establishing and making clear what that comparable standard is, what people can, what standard and expectations we should have around disclosures, when do you think this might be done?
Again, we try not to do things against a clock. It's really when the staff is ready and the commission is ready. We got about 16,000 public comments. The private funds rule that was being discussed a little earlier took us about 19 months or so from proposal to adoption. But again, I don't want to predict on this one. There's a very heavy comment file, and really important issues have been raised around the discussion I had with Senator Tester earlier about Scope 3, but over a number of other matters as well, and we're looking at staff recommendations on how to deal with those comments.
Okay, thank you. I want to dive in on I was smiling to myself as Senator Lummis was talking about getting nerdy on you. So I'm going to dive in for my last question on something that is maybe equally nerdy, but really important. As you know, the Registration for Indexed Linked Annuities Act, which I led with Senator Tillis, was enacted last year. And what this legislation does pretty simply is require a tailored registration form for these kinds of index linked annuities so that consumers that want to purchase these products have good, clear, concise information. So I want to thank you and your staff for working with us on this legislation and its implementation. And I'm wondering if you can share any updates for us on how that's going and when we might be able to expect a first draft.
It's going well. Congress also set a deadline, if I think of a total of 18 months to not only get a proposal, but to get a final. But one of the pieces that we're working on is Congress also, in that legislation that you co-authored, we had to do some investor testing. And so there's two pieces. It's the investor testing, and it's also the proposal, bringing that up to my fellow commissioners, trying to vote it out, get public comment, and also with an eye towards adoption in the full 18 months that you had laid out.
Well, good. Well, thank you, Chair Gensler. I appreciate your attention to that. Mr. Chair, I cede back my time.
Thank you, Senator Smith. The chair recognizes